Nebraska producers are facing 2 consecutive dry years. This is raising questions about nitrogen application for the 2023 crop. It is recommended that operations in irrigated or dryland areas with normal production should carry on as normal. However, for those dryland areas that have been dealing with significant yield reduction, there might be reason to adjust your nitrogen application for the next growing season. For more on this topic, we turn to Market Journal's Mike Straub.
As yield numbers come in this harvest season, if you happen to notice a significant reduction in your crop due to the continuing drought conditions we faced the last couple of years, odds are that crop nitrogen uptake was reduced as well. Conditions like this are conducive to leaving a considerable amount of unused nitrogen in the soil.
When there are dry conditions, there is a limited movement of nitrogen into the soil, which reduces crop nitrogen uptake, and then it affects crop grain yield. If you were in the area of the state where you had a severe drought and there was a drastic yield reduction, that means that not all of the nitrogen that was applied to the crop was taken up by the crop. So some of that nitrogen is left into the soil. So that's why we encourage the producers and crop consultant to estimate the residual nitrogen into the soil, take soil sample and estimate how much nitrogen is has not been used by the soil and how much nitrogen is left into the soil. So definitely this nitrogen can be used for the next season, so you may want to credit this nitrogen into nitrogen rate recommendation for the next crop. This can not only decrease the fertilizer cost, increase your profitability, but it can also protect the environment.
The best way to determine the amount of any residual nitrogen left in the ground will be via soil sampling. When it comes to testing your soil, timing of that will be determined by your timetable as it pertains to nitrogen application for any given field.
So the soil sampling can be done either in fall or spring. It really depends when you want to apply fertilizer. For example, if you are looking to apply fertilizer in fall, you want to take soil sample right after harvest or before fertilizer application. Otherwise, if you are looking to apply fertilizer during spring or in season, that's what we recommend, because that is the time when it is close when the crop can take up the nitrogen. So in that case, you want to take soil sample during the spring period. And then you don't want to take the soil sample during fall and apply that to spring, because in that way you may end up applying less nitrogen, because some of the nitrogen could be lost through snow melt or precipitation during the early spring. So therefore it is really a best practice to sample soil in spring for spring or in season nitrogen fertilizer decisions.
Finally, when sampling, it is imperative to collect a good representative sample of the soil. When testing fields with soil and yield variability, you may want to consider gathering those samples by zones within the field to get a more complete picture of the patterns of residual nitrate.
So collecting a good and representative soil sample is really key for making good fertility management decisions. So we recommend that you can take soil sample from the top 2 foot depth at least, but it is preferable if you can take to 3rd or 4th foot, because in that way you can track where the nitrogen is in the soil profile. So in order to do that, it is also recommended that you split those 1 foot into those samples into 1 foot increment. You can track where the nitrogen is sitting there. And soil sampling for your field is important in such a way that there could be a lot of variation of soil nitrogen across your field. But if your field is uniform, you may consider taking up 4 to 6 cores for not more than 40 acres. But if the dry conditions has resulted in uneven yield with different soil types and landscape position in your field, so you may want to divide your field into different management zones and take soil sample within each of those management zones. There are some certain data layers, just like yield monitor data, digital soil maps and elevation data, that can help you to identify those management zones.
Having endured 2 consecutive dry seasons in 2021 and 2022, there is a good chance there is a considerable amount of unused nitrogen still locked in the soil, which can be utilized by next year's crops, saving you the added expenses of buying and applying more nitrogen down the road. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Mike Straub.